guys, I'm Isabel Gallegos and welcome to part 2 of the Attack on Titan cosplay tutorial. The music is by Addicted Deathcat on SoundCloud. You should really check him out because he makes amazing songs. I'm going to go over through some of the tools that I use and I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial. So first off, you're going to need some brown thread. I choose a thread that is slightly different from the fabric color that I use. You're going to need a separate hand sewing needle, and also the type of needle you're going to use has to be a denim sewing needle for your sewing machine. You're also going to use a seam ripper just in case you make any mistakes, as well as some buttons and your fabric of choice. So now that we have all your pieces cut out, we're going to start off with the collar first. So you're going to get your collar, the top part, and flip it inside out. You're going to sew along the top and the sides. Then you're going to flip it inside out and sew a top stitch. So that's what it should look like. And I should give you a sewing tip. Whenever sewing things that are pointed or squared, you should cut off the tip. This allows you to flip it and have crisp color. I should just mention that a top stitch is when you flip your sewing piece over and just sew on top. So now you have your bottom piece of the collar. If you've done just one piece, then you could just put this up. But you're going to flip them right sides together and sew along two sides only, along the side. So now you're going to get your top piece of the collar and put it inside of the bottom piece. You're going to sew along the top of the piece, I guess. And then once you're done sewing, you flip it inside out and then top stitch. Once you're done sewing your collar, you're going to get your back piece and layer your two front pieces over and sew it like a vest. So now you're going to get your collar, you're going to insert it facing downwards while the vest is still like that and sew it along the top. So now you're going to get the collar, flip the vest right side out and flip the collar down. The piece that you cut out for the lapel, you're going to place it on top with the right side facing together, and you're going to sew them even up the collar. So once you're done, you're going to flip it inside out and do another top stitch.
When you do the top stitch, you are going to sew only up to
you reach the collar, or not before, like right at the collar. And then that piece on the inside, you're just going to glue it down at the top. So you're using a thick fabric like that. Moving on to the arms, they're pretty straightforward to explain. Sew along the sides and don't sew along the tops. I forgot to mention, but you're going to need 2 long rectangular pieces and 2 short rectangular pieces. Fold them in thirds and then sew on either side. So you're going to get your long piece and place it over the shoulder seam. You're going to flip your sleeve right sides out and your vest right sides in. Pin it and then sew using the detachable arm on the sewing machine. For hemming, I just rolled up the sleeve once since mine's a thicker fabric, but if it's thinner, you should do it twice. And along the bottom of the jacket, I folded it twice, and then I just sewed it around. Alright, so let's come to the last step, the pockets. For the top, if you're using one layer, you're going to fold it on opposite ends, sew it and then fold the pointed edge. And you're gonna try to sew this as close to the edge, not close to the edge, but not too close to the edge. If you're doing 2 layers, you're just going to sew it all the way around, flip it inside out, and do a top stitch. For the square part of the pocket, you're going to just do the exact same thing. Sew it, iron it on 2 sides, and sew it, then fold the other side and sew it as well. For this, you're gonna probably want about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Away from the edge. That's where you're gonna want to sew it. And I'm just gonna iron it really quickly. And so here's an example of the 1/4 inch seam allowance. When you're sewing it onto the jacket, you're going to sew close to the edge, but do not sew the top. Then for the little flap, you're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from the top of the pocket, fold it downwards, and then sew close to the edge. So the last step, sewing the button. You're just going to hand sew this side piece exactly how I sew it, and the buttons, either sew them on the flap or cut a buttonhole.
So this is what the final product looks like. Depending on your own body type, you might need to adjust it just so it will lay flat against your back when you're standing up with your shoulders straight. I added a little seam, I don't know if you can tell, right underneath my armpit. It's like an extra seam. Depending on your fabric choice, you're gonna encounter a couple of problems. Since I did have a problem with this flap not laying flat, and I didn't know how to get this flap to lay flat without it looking like I glued the whole thing down. So you know how in here we have this little layer? All I did was open up this layer and sew a straight line down. Personally, I wanted to go for this certain look that this collar was all straight together, as you can see. So all I did was sew it together right there, just so this could stay closed. But if you guys are using a thinner fabric, it's definitely this is going to lay flatter. This part might lay flatter as well. I'm going to put a tiny bit of glue just so I don't have to make any more sewing, and this will lay flat. This side I don't really have a problem with that. I have no idea why. This side I do. I hope your jacket turns out as great as I feel mine turned out. I'm really happy with how it turned out, guys. I'm so excited. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial, maybe, hopefully. Cross your fingers. I don't know what I'm going to do next. Maybe an Akatsuki cloak tutorial, but that's in the future. Bye, guys.